They came to arrest me from my garden. On a Tuesday morning, 3 men in fake badges at my gate calling themselves HOA police, like that was a real thing, telling me I was under arrest for camellias and walkway stones. I let them talk because they had no idea who they were standing in front of. I wasn't a scared homeowner fumbling for a checkbook. I was Thomas Jackson, retired FBI. The ghost criminals whisper about when doors are closed. Duke did the talking. Big frame, cheap confidence, with Miles clutching a citation book that shook like a rattle, and the youngest Ethan staring at his sneakers like he wished the earth would swallow the whole scene. Their sedan had no government plates. Their badges looked like they were ordered in bulk, and the so-called violation notice had no case number, no hearing date, no appeals. Language, just a dollar amount, and bold words meant to scare folks who work hard and don't have time to fight. I kept my face calm and my voice lower than theirs. I clicked a pattern on my smartwatch that woke up my home cameras and pinged dispatch for a quiet welfare check. Then I said, "Sure, we can talk. You want me to come with you? Let me grab my coffee." You know what I mean. Sometimes the best move is to let the bluff keep walking until it leads you to the table where the real game is played. They drove me out past city limits to an industrial park with too many cameras and not enough tenants. A building with fresh vinyl signs that said, "Community Management Solutions," and hallways that smelled like new carpet and old lies. Inside the lobby wore a mask, framed HOA posters, tidy file cabinets, a receptionist who looked past me like she'd been trained to decide who belongs, and then the mask stepped out of an office in heels and a practiced smile. Rebecca Morrison didn't waste breath. Pretending this was normal governance, she slid a folder across a polished desk and described a compliance pathway, which was code for here's how we pressure you into selling your home fast and cheap to a buyer we already picked. She talked about standards and preserving value, and I heard what that meant in neighborhoods like mine. People who look like me are tolerated if we fold quickly and don't ask for the rule book. I asked to see her authority. She gave me attitude, so I excused myself to the restroom and lit up an old channel to Director Helen Martinez, the one you use when you can't trust the room down the hall. Off the books, eyes only send me a team that reads the Constitution and their conscience, not the talking points. Back in the chair, Rebecca kept selling the machine. Fully fabricated violations, templated letters, late-night knocks, administrative holds. Then a solution that looked like mercy and felt like theft. She bragged numbers like a quarterly report. 15 families displaced in 2.5 years, millions skimmed from equity, the way you skim. Cream off milk when nobody's watching. She didn't know my history. With this didn't know. I chose this cul-de-sac for a reason. Didn't know. My old partner Michael Torres died. Asking the same questions. Accident stamped on a report that smelled like bleach. Yeah, that happened. And that's the kind of grief that sits in you quiet until someone says standards with a smile, and it stands up. I played useful. The guy who could help them scale, the neighbor who knows security systems and paperwork, the man who will keep the noise down while the money moves. And Rebecca took the bait with both hands. She dangled a summit 2 weeks out in the Ridge Country. Big donors and regional heads, the kind of meeting where people speak freely because they think they own the air. In the days between, I walked their routes with a mic tucked under my collar. One-party consent. Clean timestamps, chain of custody tight enough to ride a hurricane. I watched Duke practice intimidation in cul-de-sac. Light heard, Miles spit out lines about community culture, saw neighbors' shoulders slump at the phrase "final notice," and at night I sat on my back. Steps smelling the garden I planted, and talked to Torres like he could still talk back. On day 6, Ethan came alone. No vest, no bluster, with a banker's box of files that looked like a confession with staples. He shook like a leaf on the first cold morning. Told me Rebecca was his mother. Said he grew up believing they were fixing neighborhoods until he read goodbye letters from families who left in the dark because the knocking wouldn't stop. He had spreadsheets that mapped everything, who they targeted, and why who in city planning doctored documents, which media contacts, buried stories, which officials liked their donations. He wanted out not just for himself, he wanted it all to stop. You can hear the truth in a kid's voice when he's finally done lying to himself. I called Martinez and said we were ready to draw the net. The Ridge Resort rose out of the pines like a glass ship, and at dawn, the conference room filled with men and women who looked like real estate and smelled like impunity. Slides bragged about turnover and time to resolution. Veronica, cool poised, introducing regional numbers like she was handing out awards. And then the room actually straightened in their chairs because the chairman was stepping out from the quiet corner he'd been watching from. Lawrence Bradley, former FBI deputy director. My old brass, the man who once shook my hand and said, "You did good work, Jackson." Then walked my cases into rooms I didn't get invited to. He laid out the philosophy. We protect stability. We keep property values safe from disorder. We do what weak leaders won't. And the people in that room nodded like choir kids. Notice how corruption always dresses itself as responsibility, like putting on a tie makes the theft polite. When Veronica finally realized who I was, her eyes did a fast calculation. Threat, leverage, risk. And Duke's hand slid under his jacket like a man who thinks violence will fix a paper problem. I lifted my palms and let my voice carry steady. Everyone breathe. Nobody do anything they can't take back. Then I said the name Bradley stopped being when he chose the money over the badge, and I asked if he wanted to say anything on the record before the door opened and the country stepped in. He tried the old games. Charm first, insult second. Told me I never understood scale. Told the room this is what it takes to keep America tidy. And I thought of front yards with crepe myrtles and tricycles and grandmothers who plant tomatoes in buckets. I thought of Torres of Ethan's box of neighbors who work double shifts and just want a Sunday without fear. The first flashbang took bluster out of the air, the second took certainty, and then Martinez's team moved with the kind of care that proves we can do things right. Miranda clear hands, gentle but firm cameras, rolling chain of custody labeled like a lesson plan. Veronica went for a concealed piece. Panic or pride, take your pick. Shattered a chandelier and her own exit strategy. And when she squared on me with the fury of a person who just realized her son turned toward the light, I told her don't make this worse, and watched her choose whether the next chapter would start in shackles or stretchers. Across 12 states, doors opened at the same minute. Accountants, bagmen, a judge who sold due process by the hour, a state rep who wrote bills like favors a comms guy, who warped stories and cashed checks. Sentences came months later. Bradley got decades. Veronica, too. The courthouse crowd thumped their Bibles before they took their plea deals. Duke and Miles testified cleaner than they'd ever spoken in their lives, and Ethan walked into witness protection with a chance to be the kind of man he wished his father had been. Restitution is not magic. It took work. It took time. But houses came back to families who thought they'd never get a front door key again. Equity got unfrozen. A new HOA board learned how to run a neighborhood without turning it into a racket. And on Saturdays, I teach a little class under the gazebo. Not fancy, just neighbors and coffee and how to read a letter so it can't lie to you. Folks ask me if I feel finished. I tell them finished is for races. And this is a road I feel steady. I feel like the part of me that keeps score finally put the pencil down. But I also hear Bradley's line sometimes. We are the culture. And I know he didn't mean it as a threat. He meant it as a diagnosis of a sickness. We keep pretending as a cold. There are other rooms like that conference room. There are other vinyl signs in other empty business parks. There are other kids like Ethan trying to figure out if the truth is worth burning a bridge his mother built out of bad wood. One evening, a moving truck backed into a driveway 3 doors down. A mom stepped out with grocery store flowers in a water pitcher. A dad with a toolbox older than his son. A little boy lugging a lamp like a trophy. And he asked if he could plant sunflowers taller than him. I said, "Kid, you can plant a forest if you want." Maybe that's the point. We deserve neighborhoods where the loudest knock is pizza, where standards mean we help each other fix the fence instead of calling in goons with fake badges. So let me ask you, have you seen authority used like a weapon where you live? Have you seen a rule book turned into a threat? Have you been on the wrong end of standards that weren't written down until they were used to move you out? Tell me in the comments. Argue with me if you think HOAs can be good. With real oversight, share this. If someone you love needs a reminder that the law can still work when we demand it to, and if you want more stories told plain like this, hit like subscribe and pull up a chair next Saturday. We'll read the mail together and make sure the letters can't lie.